Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Turner. I am the founder of Bad Cat Media Group, which is the home to my two brands, Dream Plan Start Grow, which is my podcast and business coaching program, and the Allison Turner, which is also my speaking and coaching program. I wanted to jump on today and talk a little bit about resiliency and being persistent, because I find those two qualities are really integral in being a true entrepreneur. And if you think back when you were a child, we thought we could do anything. I mean, at least I did when I was growing up, and I'm talking about really more early childhood. I was always looking for opportunities. I think I wanted to be a garbage man at one point, garbage woman. It was just interesting. And even in college, high school, college, you have those dreams of like, what's life going to be like? What's that next step when you're out on your own? And ultimately, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I know I looked at opportunities to travel abroad, maybe go and teach for America, which obviously was teaching within this country, but maybe going abroad and doing some kind of teaching like English as a second language. Well, that didn't happen. I had a dog at the time, and that was my choice, but that changed the course of where I went with things. And I think life continues to not get us down, but things happen in our lives and we aren't able to go the path that maybe we envisioned at one point. And that there's nothing wrong with that by any means. But I find when you're an entrepreneur and you're a business owner, you have to have these qualities of resiliency and being persistent. Like there's no option. We had it as a child. We, and it was a great quality as a child. And we have to really bring that back because otherwise you're not going to survive in business. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Because if you're always second guessing yourself, you're always getting frustrated, you're always having a meltdown because of something going wrong, it will go wrong. Everything, everything will go wrong because that's not the right thing. Because I don't want to ever discourage people from owning a business, but I do want to have people be cognizant of what it takes to run a business. And I never saw myself as a business owner. This is like a whole different thing for me. I've been in it for 10 years now. But I think for me, it was like I needed more of a challenge. So that's how I ended up here. But I've learned so many different lessons along the way. Because if I knew what I know now, like when I started, I would be so much further along. And I'm sure there's other business owners that can relate. But a lot of those lessons we learn along the way because we don't know what we don't know when we start, right? We don't know what we don't know. And there have been plenty of times during my 10 years in business where I've thought, wouldn't it be easier for me just to like close this down and go get a job? I could go back to tennis. There's a whole array of things I could do. Work for someone else, 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, whatever the hours are. You come home and you just, disconnect from all business because you typically do that when you're a business owner. There's always something in my mind of like, oh, let me write this down because it's a good idea. Maybe I'll use it tomorrow. So, you know, being resilient and really persisting is great when you're overcoming challenges because you're always going to have challenges in your business. Like, always. It's a fact of life. Something comes up and you have to find solutions to something maybe that you weren't expecting. And you have to continue having that resiliency and that being persistent in order to do that. When COVID hit, a lot of us were, kind of shell shocked of like, oh my God, what do we do now? And you had to, one of the big things that gets cut in my world is marketing for my clients. I really looked at my ongoing clients and I like figured out which ones would be impacted the most. So I had clients in California that California completely shut down, and particularly this is a sports, kids sports. And so that those shut down. So I knew I had to adjust some things with what their contract looked like, at least for a little bit, until things started opening back up. But I was really looking at like, what do I need to do first? What's the next thing? What can I do to change how I'm getting clients? So it's overcoming those challenges, and that's really that resiliency as well as being persistent. it's adapting to change. So when something comes up, like the pandemic, we can make changes. If the economy suddenly goes south, you know, you can make changes. There's adjustments you are always willing to make. You come out with a different product that maybe someone wants versus the product you had. Maybe it's a lower cost product, a lower barrier to entry into your services, and then people become clients that way. There's so many ways that you can adapt to change. And I think a lot of times we don't realize that because, that whatever that big thing is that comes up and we're frustrated by it. And then we all of a sudden haven't figured out what to do next instead of like, what's our solution? Hey, thanks for jumping on here. What's the solution? I have to feel like I'm thinking in the solution. If I'm not in the solution, and that doesn't mean I'm going to come up with the solution right away, but it means I'm going to look at what my options are and try and find the solution. Because if I dwell on the problem, then I'm not going to adapt to what I need to adapt to. I'm not going to make those changes. I'm not going to adjust. And then that impacts the third point I want to bring up today, which is mental well-being. Because ultimately, owning a business, it taxes you mentally because there's so much going on in the day-to-day of your life. And you have to make those decisions oftentimes on the fly. And especially when you're a solopreneur, when you first start out, or you're brand new in business and you're trying to figure out basically what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, as I said before, and you're trying to figure all those elements out. You have to have that mental well-being. You have to have that confidence and be resilient and be persistent in getting through it. Even if things dip down, they're going to dip down, they come up, whatever they're doing, you have to be ready for those changes and then maintaining the mental well-being, and really helping avoid the burnout, because business can burn you out, especially when you work for yourself. I think in being in any kind of company, whether you're working for yourself or you're working for someone else, you can burn out if you're not really helping yourself. So you have to be aware of what's going on with you and make sure you're setting time aside for you. And then, but also realizing that, hey, I need to maintain that positive mindset. I need to really look at the solutions out there instead of focusing on the problems. I need to be that decision maker for my company and be that leader for my company. And then build those strong relationships. And I think resiliency really helps in that because we learn how to not take things personally. I remember long ago, and I still do it a little bit, but long ago, someone I knew would come to me and they'd be like, oh, I need a proposal for this. Well, and they were still pricing with other companies like people do. And so I would give them a proposal and then they'd be like, yeah, we're going a different way. We're going over, and I would take it personally because I would be like, oh, I thought we knew each other. I thought you trusted me, things like that. No, you can't take it personally because business is business and people are going to do what they feel is best for them and their company, or in my case, I'm B2B, their company or if it's a consumer, what's best for them personally. And that's what we really have to figure out is like, we can't take something personally. And then that allows us to build those strong relationships because those are critical. Just because you don't win a proposal, it's not a big deal. It's a matter of how do you stay in that relationship and build those partners, or maybe they're future customers. Maybe they weren't a customer for this time in space, but they're a customer down the road. Maybe they could be a potential employee down the road. There's so many things that can happen along the way. And then finally, resiliency and being consistent really drives your long-term success. Because ultimately, when you start a business, you don't know what's going to happen, right? And so many businesses fail. I don't think any of us get into business thinking, what if I don't make it past year one? I mean, I never got into business thinking that ever. And then you start hearing statistics. So many businesses fail year one. So many businesses fail by year 3, year 5, and then year 10, like 80-something% or something fail. And those numbers are staggering. Yet small business really runs this country's economy. So think about how if I'm resilient and I'm persistent in what I do, how that can only better my long-term success for my company because I can bounce back faster, I can build those strong relationships, I can adapt to the change, I can overcome the challenges, and ultimately I can build that long-term success. And that's really what I want to impart today is how do you use resiliency that we learned in I shouldn't even say we learned in childhood because it wasn't even something that we learned. We had in childhood. We unlearned that skill. So how do we learn it again and have it in our everyday lives and be persistent because that resiliency allows us to be persistent and really tackle things head on and not get overwhelmed. I mean, we're always, there may be some overwhelming situations, but you know that everything's going to come out how it's supposed to come out on the other end. And that's really what part of the resiliency is. So, hey, think in your life, if you're a business owner, how resiliency and being persistent has helped you. If you're thinking about starting a business, think about how you have that in your life and how you can develop that even further. And if you have any questions about starting a business, I am offering an upcoming webinar that's coming up on October 12th, which is a Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can register at yourdreambusinessplan.com. It will really work with you to create that dream business based on your personal and your professional goals and leading to your success. So I'd love to help you if you are interested in starting a business, or maybe you're newer to business, because this is great for people that are newer in business as well. You've been in business maybe a year or less. Awesome for that as well. But thanks for jumping on today. I look forward to seeing everyone hopefully tomorrow, and have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.